Josh Christopher, a guy that a lot of people coming into the season had a lot lower than his high school ranking should have indicated. A lot of NBA draft people not convinced by the flash and dash of Josh Christopher's personality and said, when you watch him on the court, not an NBA prospect. Well, he's been pretty dynamic in his freshman season, as again, Paul being Cardi and Evan Daniels smoking the cigar, saying, I don't know what you guys were seeing, but clearly he was a great player in high school. So, EJ, preseason mock draft had Josh Christopher outside of the top 20. Owe him an apology. Overreaction or not?
I think this may be the hardest one for me. I'm gonna say no. They don't owe him an apology. I'm gonna say that's an overreaction, and here's why. And I want to preface by saying I think that Christopher, I think, has definitely been, to me, like, considering, again, when we think about draft. I know Mobley was, like, in terms of the top guys. I thought in terms of just like the draft, in terms of like who's overrated really, who's underrated really. I think Christopher has been the biggest surprise. I think anybody came into the season kind of looking at the draft rankings and predictions and seeing, what we knew Christopher was as a high school player, and seeing him outside the top 20, nobody really talking to him as a top 10 guy type of prospect. You were surprised. We said, okay, well, I guess they see something we don't see. Let's see what happens when they get on the court. I mean, Christopher has played great. I will say it's not. I will say it's an overreaction to say that he definitely should be in the top 20. And it's simple. I mean, he's 6'5" and he's shooting 25% from three. And I know that's maybe a little harsh, but as we've seen in the NBA, you can't stretch the floor as a 6'4", 6'5" guard. Man, you better be a super athlete, a unbelievable defender. You got to be special in a lot of those other things. Christopher, despite that shooting percentage, it's crazy that he's shooting 25% from three on volume and still shooting 50% from the field. Like, part of me is like, man, that's a scoring knack that is probably really special. Draft people clearly underrated, but me seeing that jump shot, and when I see the shot, the 3-point shot, it doesn't look fluid. It doesn't look like a shot that's close to being.
It's a little odd.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a shot that's close to being a consistent threat. So until I see that, I can't jump out the window and say, oh no, he definitely has to be a top 20 guy. Because to me, while he's played well, I don't see any. He's no combo guard. There's no one potential with him there. So he's only a 2 guard, and I don't have any 3-point ability right now. So he's an exciting player. I think that the fact that he's so young, I would be intrigued. But if you're telling me because of those things I don't have him in the top 20, I could live with that. I think that there are other things they missed about him that we're clearly seeing play out. I think his clutch ability, his maturity, the maturity definitely a big thing. And again, just kind of a natural scoring knack. I think that people underrated those things they missed on. But for me, you 6'5", 6'4", and you're really giving me any 3-point ability. I can't jump out the window and say, yeah, you definitely should be a top 20 pick. That's just me.
I love the fact that he went to Arizona State. We talk about the maturity aspect, playing with Remy Martin, playing under Bob Hurley. He's not going to, he may have came in with a little bit of a California kind of laid back personality, but Bobby Hurley has that East Coast, New York City, New Jersey toughness that is, that'll certainly instill in Josh Christopher.
And it says a lot, Kendall, real quickly. It says a lot to me that because you're right about Bobby Hurley in that regard, that Hurley wanted this kid and that Hurley's featured this kid as much as he has.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that speaks to a level of toughness and maturity and character. I know I'm biased. I'm a New Yorker. You're a New Yorker. But that tells me a lot about this kid. Because, as you said, it's no diss against California, but there's been this unspoken thing about California kids going to big schools and not working out, and the question being, is he too Hollywood? He's not tough enough. He's too laid back. And Christopher seemed to fit the perfect prototype for that aspect, for that kind of prototype of player. And the fact that Bobby Hurley wanted him, and especially made him a priority, and he's featuring him on a team that has an All-American point guard, that says a lot.
Yeah. Especially, after he decided to stay out west and play with his brother, and it was like, all right, what's happening here? Cassius Stanley was similar like that last year, and he also impressed me in that regard, going to Duke and playing as well as he did. But I'm gonna say that this is not an overreaction. I think Josh Christopher. I totally understand the 3-point percentage concerns. It'll be interesting to see as the season goes on if that number improves. If it doesn't, then you may have a point. You may not go in the lottery or in the top 20. But um, I think he's a guy that's certainly proven this draft. While it's very good, I feel like he is certainly one of the more dynamic talents in this draft. And if he falls, I mean, could it be a situation like, I mean, in theory, RJ Hampton was one of the more dynamic talents last year's draft. He fell outside of the top 20. So, I mean, in theory, it's possible. But, I mean, his handle is he's got the ball on a string. He knows how to, he knows how to break guys down off the dribble. He's an excellent athlete in space. He's not, again, the shot selection, you wonder, is he a guy that shoots when he's not supposed to? Is he LaMelo Ball? Or, he has just this ultra green light? Or is he a guy that's missing makeable shots for him? So I think it'll be interesting to see. And the defense is the other part of it that we'll have to continue to evaluate as they continue to. They've played some pretty tough teams, and I think he's held his own. The guy who's also intriguing on that team is Marcus Bagley. Marcus Bagley came in with not a lot of hype. He was a 3-star early in his high school career. People kind of, well, whatever. Duke didn't even recruit him. And then, he steadily got better and better and played his way up into a high 4-star, borderline 5-star prospect. But see, people still didn't really have him on the NBA radar. But he's been almost as good as Christopher.
Yeah, Bagley looks like an NBA guy to me.
Yeah, he looks like an NBA guy. He fits the prototype. Christopher, I don't know how he plays in the NBA, like you said, without a consistent jump shot. But Bagley can shoot it. He's big. He's long. He's a good athlete, good defender. He seems like your prototypical 3-and-D wing in today's NBA, similar to DeAndre Hunter. So I'm excited about him as well. But I think both those guys look like they could be first-round picks, and certainly I think Christopher could end up going in the top 20. All right, so the fifth statement we're going to look at is it's concerning the Kentucky Wildcats, who obviously have had a rough start to the season. That's easy to say, obviously. Losses to Georgia Tech, losses to Richmond, Kansas. But we're going to say that this is the worst crop of NBA prospects John Calipari has had at UK, and that none of them will be lottery picks. That includes, obviously, Terrence Clark, BJ Boston, 2 5-star prospects, high school prospects who have struggled, particularly well.
Yeah. I think this. Well, look, I'll say this. I mean, this Kentucky season looks like it's going to be a long one for Kentucky fans, because Kentucky fans, anticipate being in the Final Four every year. This does not look like a team that's going to be that. Coach Cal has talked about how being a guy who can put guys in the NBA is what matters most to him. So saying this is the worst crop is certainly a bold statement. I'm going to say that it's an overreaction. I know the Noel team had one guy that was a top guy, but really no one else. So that to me still
Goodwin.
Probably. What was that?
Yeah, Archie Goodwin.
Second round pick, and then they had other freshmen on that team. I don't think
Paulie Stein was on the team, but he wasn't in the.
Right, I don't count him on that situation. Yeah. I'm talking about guys who actually ended up going to the NBA. So I'm gonna say that this is that's an overreaction. I think Clark will probably still be a lottery pick. I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing from BJ Boston this early in the season. Now it is very early, and I think, as I will caution a little bit of patience with Kentucky teams, because as we've seen, it's kind of starting to become a recurring theme where like they have these just like miserable starts of the season. They look lost, and then by the time they get to conference play, they start to figure it out. I'd argue sometimes maybe overrate the conference play, because then in the tournament they've seen them not go very far. But nonetheless, I don't want to go crazy and say, well, this team, write them off and they're not going to make the tournament or anything like that. But I do think that, I don't know, Boston to me, especially watching the game against Kansas and seeing, Wilson, I think really take it to him. And watching some other games from Boston, I just don't see the offensive maturity in terms of the skill set matching the physical frame, the physical size, for that to be a lottery pick. I'm not saying that he can't end up being a very good player, and these guys are all really young, but to me, that's a huge risk. Clark is a dynamic scorer, and he has a chance to be a lottery pick because of that. But then it's similar to Christopher. The shooting is the real problem there. So it's a question mark for both guys. But am I gonna go on and say both guys definitely won't be lottery picks? I can't say that. NBA scouts seem to like both guys, and I think that Noel team was particularly really really poor. So
Right, right,
I'll
right.
say that I say those are I say that's overreaction.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that this is an overreaction. And technically, there's two statements in there. I'm gonna say that it's overreaction that none of them will be lottery picks. But is this the worst crop? I mean, none of them are gonna be top 10 picks. I don't think, which is maybe also a bold statement. BJ Boston, some people thought could be the number one pick in the draft coming in. Some people really loved him. A lot of people in the NBA draft community, quote unquote, and he's been maybe the most disappointing prospect I think so far. I mean, he reminds me of a poor man's Brandon Ingram, at Duke, Brandon Ingram, which, in terms of like you said, that lack of maturity in his game. He's somebody that we thought had more shot creation ability. We thought was going to be a little slicker with the ball, and he seems a little timid out there sometimes, and has a hard time finding a shot. Clark has impressed me a little bit. I think Clark is a guy that came in, with maybe less draft hype than Boston, but he's a guy you give him the ball and he's gonna make plays. The jump shot is broken, and that's something that, again, like Christopher, I think, I don't know if it's just a guy that, has a green light and can make shots, but it's just taking really bad shots, and you shore up the shot selection, it may be better. Clark
Yeah,
is taking shots wide open.
yeah.
And
They want him to take those shots
yeah,
because
they're daring him to
they know
shoot.
he can't
And
make them.
as somebody, as a viewer, you're still saying that's a bad shot, because you shouldn't be shooting at all. Get to the basket. And that is where you get to a point where you're like, I don't know if this guy's draftable in the lottery. But if he does get a jump shot, then now we're talking about somebody who's dynamic with the ball in his hands, can get to the
And I think
basket,
the slight
length.
difference why I lean Clark over Christopher still is the height. Clark being 6'6", 6'7",
Yeah,
solid. Christopher being more like 6'4", 6'5".
yeah,
It means a lot because now you're
he
talking about
does.
a guy who has to live in the paint, and can he
Yeah,
live in the paint a lot and successfully. It's easier to do that if you're a little bigger
yeah.
and a little more. I
Now
think he has a little
Christopher's
more.
a little
I
stronger
think
than
he has a
Clark,
little
but
more quick
obviously he
twitch
can get
than
stronger.
yeah. Christopher is stronger, but I think he has a little more quick twitch also to get to the basket
Yeah.
than Christopher does.
Now, Clark, I mean, he reminds me of Karis LeVert a lot. And now Karis LeVert can shoot, Clark cannot, so that's a major difference. But a lot of the other parts of his game are really, really there. So I actually probably do like Clark a little better. And it may be crazy. Like Boston has a lot of the requisite skills to be a very good player. In the NBA, he's just years away from that. So we'll see. And it may not even be years away. He may just be like
Boston to me in a
a lot
perfect
of
world. Boston to me in a perfect world is a guy who does 2 years.
yeah,
Will that happen? I don't know, but to me, he's not a guy that's a one and done.
yeah.
He's a super sophomore that has a great sophomore year. You can say, wow, like he came in with a lot of hype, wasn't your ready freshman year, had a great sophomore year, and then he gets drafted in the top 5. If you draft him
Yeah,
now, it's like you're throwing him into the lines of the NBA. I mean, good luck. I hope your player development team
good
gets the
luck.
most out of him. The talent's there, but it's just there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
So wrapping up, last statement real quick. Staying in the Kentucky CAA family, because we all know that they're the world of World Wide West. Uh, we're going to talk about your New York Knicks, EJ. And my statement is that this time next year, projected top 3 pick Jalen Green, who recently signed with CAA, will be a New York Knick. Obviously, the New York Knicks front office, led by Leon Rose, World Wide West, former CAA guys. Um, if you look at the roster, they've accumulated a lot of CAA guys, a lot of Kentucky guys, also connected to CAA in some weird way. But regardless, Jalen Green recently signed with them. Recently announced his, I guess, departure from the Goodwin brothers over to CAA, and now clearly this means that the Knicks have him on at the top of their big board. EJ, is that overreaction or not?
Yeah, there's
You're
been
the
a
Knicks fan.
lot. Yeah, there's been a lot of people discouraged by the fact that so much of CAA has been
Obviously, Obi
represented
Toppin for
in
the
the New York
CAA.
Knicks. Obi Toppin is a CAA guy. Um, the roster has a lot of CAA guys, and when Green signed with CAA, the Knicks projected to be one of the worst teams. That raises eyebrows. So the only way I can really think about this is if the Knicks, because we don't know how the season's gonna go, so it's basically gotta be if the Knicks are in a position to draft Jalen Green, given his
He's
talent
at
and
the
given
top of
what the
their
Knicks
big board.
are, will they draft him? I
I
mean,
don't think it's much of an overreaction to say the Knicks will be, be drafting the top 3 or 4. But assuming the way the lottery works out. But is he at the top of their big board?
that's how you. I mean, if you want to think of it that way, I still, I, I think that this team is going to draft a point guard. So I'm gonna say that's an overreaction, regardless of, you know, where Suggs or Katie Cunningham or whatever point guard comes into play, whoever that guy is. I don't think that they're gonna just take Green because he's CAA. I think that point guard is a huge issue. They clearly took Toppin because they weren't as high in the point guards that were available in this year's draft, and they really, really like Toppin. I agreed with that assessment. So, but now it's another year out for Payton, so buckle up. You can't go a third year without the Payton or some other stopgap guy. At a certain point, you got to find someone who you believe in as the future of that position. So no, I think that is an overreaction. I don't think that Green is their number one guy, or if that they're in a position to take him, they're going to just take him because he's CAA. I think that they're going to look at Kate Cunningham and Jalen Suggs very closely because Nick point guard situation has been a disaster pretty much as long as I've been alive. Like really, it's just never been. At least the best since I've been watching the Knicks, it's never been a position of strength. Maybe with the exception of like the early Marbury years, but
Yeah, Stephon Marbury, yeah.
But besides
Jeremy
that,
Lin
and then a couple months of Jeremy Lin. After that, I mean, it's just always been a weakness. At a certain point, you gotta fill that need. So I don't think that that's the case.
So I'm going to say this is not an overreaction. Maybe an overreaction to say he will be because I can't see the future, but I don't think it's an overreaction. Whatever's happening with CAA and Jalen Green, and that it's pertaining to the Knicks. Because if you look at it from Jalen Green's perspective, obviously the Knicks are an attractive destination for some guys. If you want to play in New York, and so signing with CAA, if there was some sort of language that hey, we're gonna try and get you to the Knicks, it's gonna be very possible. I can see him signing off on that. And then from the Knicks standpoint, if Jalen Green and in the Knicks may not be drafting the top 3, and they may find a way to still get him. If things happen behind the scenes in terms of Green forcing his way to the Knicks, then it's a possibility. I think your point guard concern is valid, but I think the only thing it ignores is that they may develop Jalen Green into a point guard. I mean he is 6'6", 6'5", but he has some on ball skills. Obviously he plays with the ball in his hands a lot, and long term some people may view him as a point guard. I do not, but the Knicks point guard
Is that really out there? I mean, I don't see that.
Well, I mean, obviously you hear you hear these kids talk and they say, "Oh, I mean, I'm a point guard." I mean, Chet Holmgren saying, "Look, I mean, I'm a guard." And
Chet Holmgren is a special talent, but that's a conversation. That's a conversation for uncommitted. No, it's not. I mean, I'm not dissing Jalen. I'm just saying, Chet Holmgren is. I mean, we think Hawks about the term unicorn. I mean, he's in that field, so I don't want to compare.
Green we'll be talking about Chet Holmgren.
That's more of an uncommitted conversation.
But yeah, no, I mean Jalen Green. I think there is some maybe long-term point guard upside, and he just strikes me as a guy that the Knicks in that front office would be certainly interested in, given his superstar upside, both on and off the court. I mean, we talked about last draft cycle how LaMelo Ball was in the conversation with the Knicks because of that. And then they ended up going Obi Toppin, who's another guy, obviously a lot of flash in the way he plays the game. So I think getting Jalen Green would be a guy that, comparisons have been made to Kobe Bryant, especially a young version of Kobe Bryant, and that's something I think that would certainly interest the Knicks.
I just think for me to have two scorers like Barrett and Toppin who need someone to get them easy shots, if you got a chance to take Kate Cunningham and you took Jalen Green, I mean, wow, you better have a really good plan at point guard to me. Like I understand Jalen Green's talent, but like at a certain point, are you gonna keep making these guys get their own shots and with no help from the point guard? Like at a certain point, you got to address that. Yeah,
I personally wouldn't draft Jalen Green over Kate Cunningham right now. But if Knicks are at number 2, then it's not really that crazy. Or if they trade up to number 2 to get Jalen Green. I do think that there is something going on here. And I do think that some of it is tied to the Knicks. But I don't know. We may find out in 5 months that Kate Cunningham signed with CAA, and then it's like, oh well, so the Knicks are CAA just happens to get a lot of great players. Has nothing to do with the Knicks. So uh, it'll be interesting to see, but I'm sure Knicks fans already have their tinfoil hats as I do, and already trying to concoct ways to get Jalen Green and Devin Booker and Karl-Anthony Towns and Donovan Mitchell, despite the fact that Donovan Mitchell signed long term. So that'd be interesting to see, EJ.
It will be, man. But this was a fun conversation. What do you guys think about these statements? Do you think they're overreactions? Do you agree with some of them? Do you think that that they are indeed overreactions? Make sure you guys leave a comment in the comment section of what you guys think. Make sure if you like this video, you like, and of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. We will have plenty of more new content coming up. 2021 is right around the corner. We got a big year coming for you guys next year. So a lot of stuff happening here. So make sure you stay locked in. Not just sports, but Heroes and Star Wars. We haven't neglected it. We'll be back on here. We're talking that stuff as well. So thank you guys for checking this video out. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.